Hello and welcome back into another episode of Tobacco Road and Abroad. My name's Gareth Parsons, joined by Aiden Moore. Welcome into episode 4, the CW Blues. We're sending your ass to the Arrowverse. Aiden, how are you?
UNC is destined for CW Network 12 o'clock games for the rest of the season. Oh my gosh, it's not doing good.
Yeah, I feel you. 12 o'clock CW kickoffs, I can say, not been great this season. I mean, I've had to illegally watch them on YouTube, but it is what it is. I will say, on the bright side, even in our loss this weekend, the Carolina Panthers did look good, and they won't be on the CW this weekend. Not in a primetime game, but they're still in kind of that noonish slot. Any kind of first reactions to the Panthers game this weekend? I know a lot of Panthers fans are saying it feels like a win, even though it's a loss, but just want to know your take on it.
I mean, I feel like we're just a traditional bad team instead of a god awful dumpster fire now. So there's progress there. I mean, we put up a fight against the Bengals. It's not the best feeling. I mean, obviously, a loss is still a loss, but you can definitely feel like Andy Dalton is definitely going to be the move for the future, and I think we got the offense going on the right track, and there's a couple things to patch up on the defense, but overall, I'm just going to say that. I'm looking forward to seeing what the Panthers are able to do against Chicago this week. But the NFC South is looking stronger than ever right now. I mean, we just saw the uh, Thursday night game. Falcons just beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they both look like very strong teams. New Orleans has proven to be a uh, pretty strong team, or at least strong enough to absolutely dog walk the Panthers. So I'm just still skeptically optimistic, or just cautiously optimistic going forward. There's still a lot of issues that need to be addressed.
I agree. And if you told me that Joe Burrow was only going to throw for 230 yards for 2 touchdowns and a pick against us, I would have thought you were crazy. That if we were going to hold Joe Burrow under 300 and force a pick and only hold him to 2 touchdown passes. I did get to see some of the game. I was at a few of the other coaches on my swim team got together for Sunday, and we watched the games on kind of a multicast. It was hard to catch everything when you had 4 games in 4 corners of the television, but I will say the defense did look good at times, but it was every time it felt like we had the Bengals in a tough spot. Joe Shiesty out of nowhere.
I mean,
converts a 3rd down, deep ball. There was one where it was like Joe Burrow had a short completion to Jamar Chase.
and he was freaking oiled up like he was at a Diddy party, and nobody could tackle him for shit.
He bounced off like 6 tacklers, as you could guess from what Aiden was hinting to. Like, dude was wrapped up. You're like, okay, he was stopped a little bit past the sticks. Nope. Squirts out the other side, and he's gone down the sideline. And I will say, if you told me that the Panthers offense, regardless of our record, was going to look this good at this point in the season, I would have thought you were crazy a few weeks ago after, the whole Andy Dalton in one game against the Bengals. I mean, and in his last game too, but Andy Dalton in one game against the Bengals threw more than Bryce Young did in 2 games by times 2. Like, he threw for like 220 yards. Last game was over 300. He's on pace. Now, do I think we're going to make the playoffs? No, but
I think we're sending Bryce Young to the CW network. I think that's what we're doing. But it's still not looking good. We still love you, Bryce. Head up, King. Don't worry, he'll get traded, and you'll be saved from this. And you can probably be really solid backup and get some good starts at eventually sometime in your career. I still have faith in you. Don't worry.
I do. However, one team that does not look good with their new quarterback are the Dolphins. They've looked kind of stagnant ever since Tua's concussion. For those who don't know, this is like Tua Tagovailoa. He's the Dolphins quarterback, former Alabama quarterback. He's had a few rough concussions over the years. I know some people on ESPN were misdiagnosing his certain concussion symptoms. I know Shannon Sharp called. So when you get hit really hard or have a really bad concussion, you have something called a fencing defense, which I don't, if I remember correctly, what it's for is it's like your nervous system misfiring. I've heard some people on the internet saying it's your brain trying to keep you alive in the trauma, but from my understanding, it's just your brain misfiring because of how bad the concussion is, and it can cause your hand and your arms to make weird, like grotesque, like positions, like your fingers will like wrap themselves around each other. Shannon Sharp called it rigor mortis. I'm like, if he keeps getting hit, he'll have rigor mortis because he'll be dead. But back to that, Skylar Thompson, who's his backup, has not looked great. And I think the Dolphins' struggles right now just kind of boil down to they don't have a quarterback who can throw the deep ball necessarily like Tua can. So it really kind of makes the Dolphins predictable, which is not only hurting their run game, but also their short passing game. So no one's really getting open. Like Aiden and I have talked about on here a million times with the Panthers. When you become predictable on offense, you're kind of shit out of luck. Like things aren't going to go your way. The deep ball won't be there. The short pass won't be there. Defense can kind of sell out against the run. Like nothing really to do there. Only other game or two I think I'd point out would be the Commanders. How are you feeling about the Commanders?
I am high on the Commanders right now. They are, I think they're almost going to be shoe in for the playoffs at this rate. I think they're better than the Eagles. I think they're better than the Cowboys, and I think they're better than the Giants. JT Daniels has just been playing lights out football. Has been very impressive for me, and just overall, just a strong performance against the Arizona Cardinals. Granted, I'm not necessarily too high on the Cardinals, but just absolutely walking a team 42-14 in the NFL is impressive on any level. Jaden Daniels is going to be the rookie of the year in my opinion, and if he keeps on playing like this, I think he should be in the MVP conversation. He's playing lights out football. I don't know if there's a weakness that he's like been displaying yet. He's been very proficient in passing the ball. He's can run around the field like nobody else can, and I'm just seeing glimpses of like early RG3 in him, which makes me a little bit like cautious because I don't want him to like end up like RG3, but this could be, he has the career of what we thought RG3 could have had.
I agree. And one thing that's impressed me about him is we all love a quarterback that'll put his body on the line just to get that first down, get that extra yard. But in the NFL, when you're the size of someone like Jaden Daniels, yes, he's tall, but he's kind of lanky. What's impressed me is he protects himself more. He's not throwing himself out there needlessly with reckless abandon on like a 1st and 10, which is something we saw at LSU. Don't get me wrong. Aiden, I love the effort. Like it's 1st and 10, you're on a run, you're putting your body on the line trying to get that first down even though you don't need it. In the NFL, you kind of have to be more cautious with that. You can't now obviously if it's like clutch 3rd down or 4th down conversion, by all means, like they're going to expect you to put your body on the line. But on 1st and 2nd down, him making these dangerous plays in order to get a few extra yards, not something you really need. And I think that's where he may be different from RG3. I know his injury didn't necessarily come from that, but getting banged up several times leading up to that injury honestly probably didn't help. But I will say he does appear to protect himself a little bit better than RG3 did. He's not more cautious when it comes to scrambling, but I feel like he's I hesitate to even use the word smarter, but I will say he's a lot more strategic about when he gives his body up, if you know what I'm saying,
Hmm.
in a good way.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And I guess the only other game I'd like to highlight is the Ravens absolutely dog walking the Bills. I didn't see this coming, but I feel like every every season there's one or two games where the Bills just look like god awful. They'll look like Super Bowl contenders the rest of the season, but there's always one or two games a season where the Bills look like, if you didn't know anything about that NFL season and they covered up the records at the bottom of the screen, you would have thought the Bills were in last place and 0-4 with how they played. But I'll give credit where credit is due. The Ravens are good. They're 2-2 right now. They are not. They don't play like a 2-2 team. And while they are physically a 2-2 team, they're not. Like, those two losses were by one possession, and they both had either a really close call or a play called back that determined the outcome of the game. So the only other thing I will add is Jared Goff got screwed. So, and you're probably saying, Gareth, he had the game of his life. No. So in the NFL, in order to be considered to have a perfect game passing, you have to be at least 20 for 20.
Hmm.
Goff was 18 for 18.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
unfortunately, this will not go down as a perfect game for Jared Goff, which, I'm sure he probably doesn't care too much in the moment
Didn't
right now,
Jared
but
Goff didn't he catch a football? Didn't he catch a touchdown though?
he caught a touchdown. He threw two and caught one. Yes, Jared Goff caught a
I feel
touchdown pass from Amon-Ra St. Brown.
that's good because Amon Ra St. Brown is on my fantasy team. Like I'm a big Amon Ra guy. I'm a big Saint any of the St. Brown brothers. I know Amon Ra is like the more popular one, but growing up, I was an Equiminius kind of guy myself, big Notre Dame dude. But besides that, I think Jared Goff had an amazing game. I was going to highlight Lions versus Seahawks, just for like the absolute fireworks show that was uh, put on. And I know I said earlier that Jaden Daniels should be considered for the MVP. That was just more like my kind like more like a hot take that I was like trying to get out there, just because like I'm pretty sure if he keeps playing the way he is, I think he's going to have probably one of the best rookie seasons that we've ever seen out of a quarterback. But uh, whether he's like in the MVP conversation or somebody from the Lions just showing off on the offensive front is playing lights out football is definitely something that should be considered. Lions are looking strong, and I think I'm interested to see if I'm going to look at the schedule. I'm interested when the Lions are going to play the Vikings. Not this week, but next week. The Lions should be playing the Vikings, and that's going to be a game that I'm definitely going to be looking forward to.
Definitely. And I will say the Lions have had one of the more miraculous turnarounds that I've seen. Last year, they kind of not they didn't we kind of saw it coming after the Lions got their first one under Goff with Dan Campbell a few seasons ago, and just kind of like how they finished that season, you kind of could get a sense. But I think the Lions honestly could be a Super Bowl contender this year, in my opinion. Just with they've got both Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery in that backfield, and that's just like two power backs who will absolutely beat you to death. And then once you finally you sell out on the run, Goff just hits you over the top to Amon-Ra, absolutely just torching you. And I feel like they could be a really frustrating offense down the stretch, as injuries and fatigue set in over the course of the season. And there's always that conversation about, the NFL is 17 games now instead of 16, and people are wanting to go to 18. But when you have these offenses like that are predicated around, I know I've likened it to this on a previous radio show, the current Lions offense at times, it's not word for word, at times reminds me of the Chargers Air Coryell, which is a predecessor to the modern air raid, which it was a pass first offense, but it was, you set up the deep ball by like power runs and with gap running schemes. with like either power and dive to like you beat essentially the defensive line in submission. So when you go for those, vertical or seam shots, you'd have time to throw the ball because the defensive line has just been beaten to a pulp. But
Quick question. And I wanna open this up for like another second. We're a month into the season. What are our predictions, like playoff, like just looking ahead right now, winners of each division and who do we think is going to be in the Super Bowl? I can go first. Uh, AFC East. Uh, I haven't seen anything that I'm like really shouts out anything that's like really impressive. I'm not impressed with Miami. I'm not really impressed with the New England Patriots. The Buffalo Bills had a bad showing, and the New York Jets aren't really playing up to their capabilities. So, but in the AFC East, I do think that the Jets will be turning it around, and I think they're going to win the division. AFC North. It's a little bit tougher. Bengals are starting to gain some traction, but this week is going to be very important. And since they play the Ravens, to see what type of season they're going to be having. And until further notice, just seeing how Derrick Henry played, I think he is the true MVP candidate right now. The way he absolutely dog walked the Buffalo Bills. I have the Baltimore Ravens winning the AFC North. AFC South, Jacksonville has regressed heavily, and if I'm a Jacksonville fan, I'm almost starting to ask questions about Trevor Lawrence because he is not showing the progression that I think he should be showing, and in some ways, he has actually regressed. Uh, uh, Joe Flacco, surprisingly, pulling out a win as for the Colts is something that I thought was a good story going in this week, but I'm still high on Houston, Texas, the Texans to win out the AFC South, and then AFC West, Chiefs. Enough said. I don't care how they're playing right now. I think they're going to win. Um, NFC East, as I said, I think the Commanders got them on lock. I think they're better than Philadelphia, and I think they're going to be a threat come January. The North, I got the Lions. I know Minnesota's on a win streak right now, but I'm still have doubts about Sam Darnold. And I think Detroit, surprisingly, is the more proven team in the NFC North. NFC South, to me, is up for grabs. Uh, Honestly, it's like we just saw that Atlanta Tampa Bay game that has just started kicking off the week. I'm high on Kirk Cousins. Kirk in Atlanta is like Kirk off the perk. He's slinging that thing around, and I think he's going to be just good enough to win a very, I think, middling NFC South squad. And then the NFC West, I'm not high on pretty much any of these teams right now, but I'm just defaulting to the San Francisco 49ers. I think they're just the more proven team. And I think later in the season, McCaffrey should be back. And I think they'll start getting back into like their domination ways.
I agree. And I feel like a lot of you and I on these are going to agree. In terms of the winners, I've also included some of the teams that I think are going to win a wild card. I'll start with the NFC. Very similarly, I've got the Commanders winning the NFC East. I feel like that's kind of wide open, especially with how now that Philadelphia's line's been kind of beat up, and I think they have a few receivers out as well. The first week they looked kind of unstoppable, and they were like one of my picks to win the Super Bowl after like, my week one overreaction, but they really look kind of garbage after that. NFC West, North, I've got Detroit. I think you had Detroit as well.
Yeah.
NFC South, I have Atlanta, just with how they've looked. Kirk Cousins almost setting the NFL single passing game record or single game passing yards record. Set a single game passing yards record for the Falcons with 505. He needed, I think, 45 more yards to get the NFL record of 550. And then for the NFC West, I've got San Francisco. Wild card, this is in no particular order for the NFC. I've got the Bucks, Minnesota, and Seattle. That's just NFC, I feel like it's kind of a crapshoot right now when it comes to certain divisions. So I feel like that could very much be shaken up, and there could be other teams that I haven't included in there. So in terms of the AFC East, I honestly
I think there's a case to be made that maybe I think the NFC North is going to be the stronger of the two divisions. I think I got Green Bay, Minnesota, and I'd probably throw the Bucks in there. I don't
definitely.
think I'm not too high on Seattle right now.
Yeah. And then for the AFC, for the East, I've got the Bills. I think, like I said, that was just like their 1 or 2 games a year where they look like an 0-4 team, like look like they're tanking. West, obviously, they got the Chiefs. AFC North, I do have the Ravens, but I think this is going to be like the scenario like we've had in past years where we've had 3 teams come out of the North. I think for the playoffs, the wild card may get sapped up by all 3 NFC North teams. Just looking at the rest of the AFC, I really don't see, even if Buffalo doesn't win the division, I really don't see another playoff team coming out of the AFC East than whoever wins it. AFC South, the only team that looks kind of passable right now is the Texans, maybe the Colts, but we'll see how that goes.
Show 'em about
A-
Flacco.
AFC West, I could maybe see the Chargers sneaking in there, but I don't think the Chargers are necessarily as good as Pittsburgh or Cincinnati. So I think winning the North is Baltimore, South is Houston, and then my 3 wild card teams, I've got Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and the Chargers.
Mm,
I think
mm.
Miami, with how long Tua is going to be out, I think that damage is going to be too much for them to fight back from. Obviously, if Tua comes back, their offense, probably after an adjustment period, with just, Tua getting back into the rhythm of playing, will be as explosive as ever. But I think with how long he's going to be out for and that adjustment period coming back from a concussion, you don't want to turn your whole playbook loose on him and get into really intricate blocking schemes that can get messed up really easily.
Mhm.
I just think that period of without Tua and then him being back but not really, that's going to be too much. Do I think Miami could probably still finish second in that division? Yes, but yeah. So
Who are your Super Bowl picks? Like just Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, um, winner, I don't know. I would say my Super Bowl
Not winter, just not winter, just matchup.
matchup for me, honestly, is Baltimore, 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 San Francisco
Mm,
rematch
mm,
from almost 10 years ago.
mm, mm. I'm gonna take. See, I feel like Kansas City is gonna like do like what they usually do, like near the end of the season. But that's not fun. I want Houston Texans versus uh hmm, Houston versus Washington. I'm calling it.
Sure. And that's not necessarily who I want to be in the playoff, who I want to be in the Super
Yeah,
Bowl,
yeah.
but that's,
I think
that's
Washington's the like right now there's a case to be or actually no, I think Lions are a stronger team. Lions or Minnesota are a stronger team than Washington, but I think Houston has a case to be made. Like I think they very well can make a deep run, and I think Houston's gonna like make it to the Super Bowl if they can get past Kansas City, which is the biggest like what this really just relies on. But you know, Houston and Detroit, the matchup between two teams that have never gone to the Super Bowl before. I want to see it. I want to see it. That's
You know
a
what
that's
I'd be excited for in the playoffs? Sketch versus Taylor Swift.
ooh.
Which media personality wins?
No,
Dude,
that can't be it. That can't be it, though, because
not in the Super
Houston
Bowl, but in the Houston's in the NFC. That's or Houston's
AFC.
in AFC.
Yeah,
Wait, no, that could happen in the playoffs though.
yeah, it could. It could.
I'm just saying, everyone supported Sketch when it was found out he used to be a former gay OnlyFans model. But the Swifties who are so tolerant, I feel like the second they start playing and Sketch starts talking, I feel like that tolerance is gonna go right out the window. You will see
Right.
Swifties become the most homophobic people on the face of the earth if they
Mm,
go up against the Texans. For those of you who don't know, because I know there's some younger people who watch this or listen, or my cousins slash my grandparents. Sketch he's a football media personality. He plays a lot of Madden, which is the NFL football game, the NFL like football Xbox game. He plays NCAA, and he's known for certain catchphrases and taglines. He was outed as being some sort of like online gay porn star at one point. YouTube, please don't demonetize me for saying the P word.
you're not getting
Uh,
any money from this. You're not
oh, I
demonetized.
mean getting taken down.
Yeah,
Sorry,
there we go. There we go.
I'm just used to hearing YouTube channels talk about getting taken down.
I was gonna say we ain't making any money off this yet.
I mean, we made half a cent off of ads.
Let's go. Let's go.
But so
I'm not paying
he
taxes on that.
he got outed, and essentially everyone kind of rallied around him, as they should. I don't think he should be docked for that. But Sketch is awesome, though. He has a lot of taglines that are funny. The
Yeah,
89
stretch is great.
Stretch is great.
Yeah.
My favorite one was he was talking. He was playing a game, talking shit back and forth with someone, and he's like, "Yo, Sketch, He's like, Sketch is beating someone at this NFL game, and the guy he's playing against goes, "Sorry, I got a girl over. She's distracting me." He goes,
I thought
"I
you were
thought you said you were
babysitting.
babysitting." See, Aiden and I know all of his lines. I follow him on Twitch.
Man,
Aiden
I
and I
love him.
follow him
I
on.
love him. I love him.
He
I
even
love
read
him.
out one of the Texans draft picks in the most recent draft.
Yeah, my dad thought he was a Make-A-Wish kid.
Oh my god! I mean, he kind of does have that vibe.
It nicked him. It nicked him.
Oh man, did you at least explain to Mr. Moore who Sketch was?
Nah.
No, you just let him. You just let him think that.
Nah. Yeah, I let him think that. But yeah, I think that concludes the NFL segment of the show. Let's bring it back to around to college. I'm gonna have a heart to heart right now. I'm gonna have a heart to heart with the
Heart to heart, not a
viewers.
crash out.
With the viewers. This might be a crash out. I might be crashing out right now. But let me just say, so UNC unfortunately lost to Duke for the first time in like 5 years in the battle for the victory bell. We were up 21-0 at one point. Well, no, 20-0 at one point, and then we lost 21-20. It was a complete and total collapse on all fronts. It was embarrassing. Probably I was going to make an emergency press conference for UNC, but I'll just sum it up right here. I'll have the emergency press conference right here. So let me just say this. Coach Brown, I love you. You're a legend at Texas. Apparently can't bring your legendary status here in UNC. But you know what? I like you. You seem like a great dude. I think he runs UNC the way Joe Biden runs America, as in the fact that I don't think he's all there right now, and we need to like send him into retirement and maybe get him a nice front somewhere like a beachfront somewhere on like the Outer Banks and just let him enjoy his days and enjoy his time away from football. Maybe give him a job back at ESPN. He was doing great there because what the hell was that? Um, and also, I want to say this. I never want to use this platform to bash or belittle anyone. I never want to like bash an athlete or something like that. But I will bash one person, and I don't know who the hell the sports psychologist is for UNC. But we need to like go into an investigation for this person because how the hell does an entire team piss down their leg in the fourth quarter? The team seems to only play good when everything is just going their way mentally. Like when the second there's like a little hint of adversity, it seems like everybody's just like pissing down their leg and not ready to play the game and missed tackles, poor play calling. I can go on and on and on about all the woes that UNC has had. And I'm going to be honest. I like we have been banished, and we are doomed to play 12 o'clock CW games for the rest of the season now. We're playing 12 o'clock against Pitt. That's going to be on ESPN too. That's great, but like in all honesty, I don't see us winning against Pitt. I think we'd be lucky to win against FSU now, because this whole season has been a wash, and I just don't see a scenario where we're at. If we keep playing like this, I don't think we'll make a bowl game because it's not even the fact that like I think all the players are talented. The players are just not in it mentally right now. They have the skills, they have the abilities, but for like whatever reason, whenever there's like the slight like turn of the momentum, they're never able to like channel that or like rebound from it. It's just immediately it's over. And like I think that's just the biggest issue that UNC is facing right now.
Yeah, I definitely think there. I mean, obviously in the ACC, there's always a chance that you can win on any given day. But I will say, I definitely think it's hard with how. I mean, Mac Brown's an experienced coach, but I feel like I don't want to say he's lost the locker room quite yet.
No, he's lost the locker room. If you go out and say that you quit and this is too much for you, don't be surprised if the team's not rallying around you.
That's fair. I honestly thought it might have been like kind of like you and I discussed it last week, where it's like but we came to the consensus understanding that like it was I don't know if I can do this anymore versus if you keep playing like this, I might just up and fucking quit. Yeah, oh, I understand it wasn't that,
I think it was
but
probably the first one, and I think I wanted Mac Brown to finish this season, and I think it would just be a good idea to just basically treat this season as like just a legacy season for him, just a goodbye farewell season, and we should probably be looking for new coaches right now. We should treat this season the way Duke treated their last season for Coach Cutcliffe.
true. But if like I know earlier, Aiden and I were talking off air, and Aiden says honestly he thinks UNC is going to go 3-9. Would Mac Brown want that to be his farewell season, or do you think he see him getting a job elsewhere to have kind of like a more of a happy sending off, or do you think he'd kind of like essentially cut his losses and like not like manage a Sun Belt team for a year just to have a winning record?
I mean, if he could find a like, I don't think he'd really want to. I mean, as much as we like it, like not everybody's gonna have a happy like an epic send off. Maybe 3-9 is a little bit of an exaggeration, but I think like UNC would definitely be lucky to end up like 6-6. I can pull up their schedule right now and like really jump into like different games that they would be playing. I know this week against Pitt, Pitt's undefeated to my knowledge. Like Pitt is undefeated. That's going to be a hard game. Georgia Tech is going to be a hard game. Virginia and FSU. Those could be easier games. So, like, let's say I give you Virginia, I give you FSU. So, like, that's 4 wins. That's a total of 5 wins on the season so far. Wake Forest, maybe you could pull away with the win. I don't see them winning against Boston College. And State, like, I'm only saying they could win against State because I really hate NC State. But other than that, I don't see them beating NC State the way that they are playing right now. So I'd say like maybe a 6 win, 7 win season is like us being lucky right now, but they really got to try to turn stuff around with Pitt this week. And Pitt is a strong football team, and they if they are prone to collapse like they did in the last quarter against Duke, I don't see them coming away with a win.
Yeah. And even then, looking at Carolina's schedule, there's one thing I just want to double check because there are certain scenarios where teams need 7 wins in order to make a bowl game instead of 6. And that has to do with how many FCS teams you play. Now, I don't think Carolina's only played one FCS team, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you only need 6. If you were to play 2, you would technically need 7 wins because only one can count. But that gets into some really weird logic of which one counts. Like, I'm wondering if you win both, only one can count. But I get what you're saying. That is, I do think you guys can get Florida State. Like, if you like, you would really have to be bad to lose to DJ. You need to get a job. But like,
even Virginia is not an easy win right now. Virginia is 3-1 so far, and their only loss right now is against Maryland. And that was like 27-13. That's not horrible. Like Virginia is a good team. I think Virginia very well could like Virginia beat UNC last year, and I think that was like their only win last year. So there's just a lot of stuff that needs to be addressed, and for Georgia Tech probably on paper better than UNC right now. There's a lot. If stuff doesn't change fast, things are going to get ugly really quick.
Did you think you were gonna beat? I just wanted to double check. Did you say you think you were gonna beat Wake Forest or not? Because I really think you guys can. Wake Forest is not, in my opinion, Wake
I
Forest
think
looks worse than last year.
I think I said Wake Forest was a win. So on
6-6
teams that I think could be a win, let's say maybe Virginia, FSU I think could be a win. Is definitely a win. Wake Forest is a win. So that's like 2 wins right there. I think you could make the argument that Virginia could also be a win. So like that's 3 additional wins on top of the already established 3. So that'd be 6-6. But that would be a lucky 6-6 in my opinion, because I don't think Virginia is an easy game, and I don't think FSU is going to be an easy game. As far as UNC is concerned and the way that they were playing, there are no easy games left on this season.
But I feel like that's the ACC in general. Like, I know people give us shit for being terrible. I just think we're a well-balanced conference top to bottom. I just think in this conference, outside of like the newbies, I feel like everyone kind of has each other's number, and like they know what buttons to press in order to like make a team unravel. It's just how well they carry that out, if you know what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, but it's not over yet. It's been a tough 2 losses, 1 loss where you're getting almost blown out, but that's a little bit, it's hard to fathom that you've been blown out when you've scored 50 points. So that's a tough loss in its own respect. And losing to Duke in the manner that you have done, that's also a emotionally like devastating loss. But do I think they have the capability to beat Pitt, and they can turn it all around right now with this Pitt game if they're able to upset Pitt. It's homecoming. It's you're the underdog at your own homecoming game. You got to try to find a way to turn it around.
I agree, and I feel like that's the great thing about college football is sometimes teams just figure it out mid-season. Like
Yeah.
one thing clicks and you become lethal. Like 1 minute you could have like inaccurate quarterback that people are calling for people to get LASIK eye surgery. He doesn't become a Heisman candidate, but he starts playing like one with like 6 games to go, and possibly looking at a 5-win season turns into an 8-9-win season just because you did something with the offense. Either they simplify the play call, like they find out what works and what doesn't. Like certain players come into their own. Like you work out kind of the depth chart, like all the position battles kind of stop, and you kind of find your guys. And I think that can happen for anyone. And I will say that's kind of like what I'm hoping happens with NC State. Granted, I know it's different. State's playing with a true freshman quarterback, and you can't exactly open up the playbook to an 18-year-old and just be like, hey, buddy, here's like 500 plays. You're starting next week. Like, you can't exactly do that. And I feel like when UNC's in the same situation, like I know Criswell isn't a freshman, but he hasn't played much till this year at UNC, right?
Yeah.
I know Criswell at one point was initially a UNC commit. I forget if he flipped his commitment or he either flipped his commitment or transferred away after one game, I believe. Let me double check. I know Criswell at one point, he was a quarterback at an SEC school. Let me double check. I think he was the Mississippi State quarter. No, that was UNC's starter was the Mississippi State quarterback. But similar to NC State and last year, I think I'm really hoping they can just kind of like something clicks mid-season. I mean, you see it happen all the time, not only in college football, but in college basketball. More so towards the end of the season with college basketball. Like one
Speaking
thing just
of, 1 month away for UNC. Till tip off. 11-4. Let's go. So that's all I'm looking forward to right now. But yeah, you're right.
I mean, one thing just kind of like at this point, one thing clicks and it could be a very different season. Now, do I think that's going to happen with NC State? I'm not sure, but I certainly think it can. I mean, if you kind of work out whether we're going to keep rocking with star CJ or if we're going to go back to McCall and kind of, Hope McCall has kind of like a Brennan Armstrong second half of the season where Armstrong came out, he looked good. Like you could see the pieces were there. He just didn't put them together. And that's how I've kind of felt the same way about McCall. And this is kind of how I feel about transfer quarterbacks who have spent 4 years at another institution. Even if they're playing bad, you can see the pieces are there. You can see the greatness. It just, the adjustment period, in my opinion, isn't worth it. Once they put the pieces together, they look great, but cool, you're 3-2. And like the hopes you had aren't there because it took the quarterbacks 5 to 6 games to, finally work themselves back to. I mean, Armstrong didn't get back to his 2021 UVA form. Like, I don't think that's like a once in a lifetime season for a quarterback. Like, you don't like even Johnny Manziel's sophomore season, in my opinion, wasn't as good as his freshman season. Like, at least in terms of how the team performed around him, they weren't necessarily as good. But I think if NC State can turn around, I mean, even with Cedric Bailey, I think we can. I know some fans have been critical about the play call. The play call has been an issue, but I will say not in the ways they think it is. It's been the type of play call rather than certain other things. I know fans have criticized us not taking many deep shots. I saw someone on Twitter do this as well as I did this on my own around the same time. I took a look at all around 48 of NC State's, I guess you could classify as deep shots. What I did was I just kind of looked at the route concepts and was like, okay, this here's 4 verts, this here's a flood concept, this here's like a. How I determined whether it was a deep pass or not was in those route concepts, who is normally your primary target? Who is your first read? So like flood concept, your first read's that deep out. It's the high-low versus from the flat/sig route to your deep out. And NC State is calling a lot of deep shots, but teams have kind of been covering them. And I know people have been like, why do we keep dumping it out of the backfield? A lot of those out of the backfield dumps are called deep shots. The quarterback just hasn't liked what he's seen. I know several times in the Northern Illinois game, fans were upset that, like, why aren't we taking deep shots? 6 out of our 10 deep shots that were called that game, Bailey didn't like what he saw and checked it down to a running back who went for a first down, which is the smart thing to do. And I know the Northern Illinois game wasn't pretty. I'll touch on that. I know we talked about I was going to have an emergency press conference as well. I've kind of turned that into what I'm going to call a midseason parent-teacher conference or fan team conference. That's coming. I didn't like how it sounded. I kind of want it to be more strategic and put together. Constructive, strategic, and put together. And it was just kind of like a popcorn, like shotgun blast where I felt like the points I made were good, but they didn't flow logically, which is why that has not come out yet. I'm currently editing that. But I guess this weekend against Wake Forest, I feel like this could be kind of a get-right game for NC State. I know I said that about Louisiana Tech, and then Grayson McCall got absolutely fucking rocked and is out indefinitely. But Wake's not looking good. I feel like if we can – Wake was our get-right game last season. If we can really find the offense to just mesh and get together. You know, we've had our scares against group of 5 teams like we did last season with Marshall. This can be a get-right game where, you know, if McCall's back this week and get him some easy completions, get him back into a rhythm. He's had some time in practice to start hoping he can connect on those deep shots. I think that's kind of enough about our teams. Just anything you want to touch on in terms of college football around other teams? I know there's some other points we want to make, some things from last week we want to highlight, some games for this weekend we want to highlight. I know you and I talked off air about how this is kind of a down week in terms of good matchups, but is there anything necessarily is there anything last week you'd like to recap before we get into this week? Just kind of games you want to point out, hot takes you have, like thoughts on some of the games?
Oh, game that I really want to talk about that I think would be fun to talk about is Miami versus Virginia Tech. Miami, I feel like, is still a playoff team. And for me, I know people are going to say, like, Miami got away with stuff. Well, that's what a winning team does. They find a way to win. And granted, was it the most clean win? I don't think that Hail Mary that Virginia Tech caught was a completion. So I'm glad that got overturned. But I feel like Miami was able to rally. Gareth was texting me saying, like, oh, this Miami team is getting murdered by Virginia Tech. And I said, hey, just wait. A good team will find a way to win against even when like everything's going against them. And Virginia Tech, they played a good game. And on most nights, I think Virginia Tech, if they played like that, they would have won every single night. But Miami was able to find a way to win and just keep on keeping on and staying undefeated. And for that reason and their ability to rally around against adversity, I think that's why I think Miami is still going to be the front runner for the ACC moving forward. I know you had some thoughts on that game.
I do have some thoughts after I did some research from past years as well. Like I will agree. I do think that was ultimately the right call that they achieved. I just don't think it was achieved in the correct way. That should have been a called incompletion on the field.
Yes.
I do not think they were in the right to overturn that. Is the overturning the right call in terms of what happened on the field? Yes. But with how it was called on the field, there was no indisputable video evidence to overturn it. But with the evidence they had at the time, they should have just called it a flat incompletion. Because if Virginia Tech challenged it, there's not like there. Do I know if that was a catch? No. But because of how ambiguous it was, whatever call on the field that they made should have stayed. If they called it an incompletion on the field and they overturned it to a touchdown, wrong call. You couldn't have tell. Like, I don't pity the referee that had to make that decision. But after some thought, I do think Miami could still be a playoff team. I know in past years, Virginia Tech has been a spoiler for the eventual national champions. in 2014, Ohio State played Virginia Tech at home. That was the worst Ohio State looked all that year. They looked unconvincing.
Week one.
Week one, Virginia. Granted, I know this wasn't a week one game, but Virginia Tech can be kind of that spoiler team. They always seem to have really good athletes that even if they're having a down season, like I mentioned with NC State and UNC with the transfer quarterbacks, the pieces are there. Once the pieces come together, they can fuck some teams up on any given night. And I feel like that's just what this was. Virginia Tech was starting to put the pieces together. And I think Virginia Tech's a lot better than their, what are they, 2-3? I think it's similar to the 1-4 Bengals. I don't think their record tells the entire story about how they're playing, just how I don't think Texas A&M's 4-1 record tells the entire story either. But that's the beauty of college football. You've got teams who are 2-10 and 10-2, where those records don't tell the entire story.
Absolutely.
Hell, Nebraska, 3-9 Nebraska. What was it that one season where it was like if you added up all the points, they lost by an average of like 4 points and were 3-9.
Yep.
And didn't lose by more than 7.
Yeah.
That's called the world hates you. But I do think Miami still is the front runner for the ACC. I do think Clemson could possibly challenge for that / be an at-large bid. I do think Clemson's kind of figured things out with Klubnik and has finally been able to build the team around him. A few games I'd like to highlight is Colorado over UCF. I did not think that was going to happen. It was just, I feel like Colorado finally figured out their run game, which was able to, like I said, you get the run game going, that opens up the pass, and, the world's your oyster. Like, Colorado for once had a run game. Colorado figured out how to stop UCF's kind of spread option gun T style approach where, kind of a 3-pronged rushing attack. You've got the jet sweep motion, you've got the quarterback, and you've got the running back. Bama, Georgia was just Bama, Georgia. That game had everything you wanted. I didn't turn the game off, but I wasn't paying as close attention to the game when Alabama went up big. I blinked and Georgia took the lead with 2 minutes left, and then of course,
Ryan Williams, the fucking alien. This man is an alien terrorist, is what I've been seeing, because he is moving ways humans should not be able to move. Freaking catches the ball off the side, bounces off jukes 2 high world-class athletes out of their shoes and makes them look like freaking paraplegics out there. He makes them look like he makes them look not even like that. He just makes them look like toddlers running around trying to tackle their dad in the backyard. And this kid is 17 years old. It was an amazing play by him, and I have to redact my statement. I think I made the statement that this game will determine whether Georgia or not is the kings of the SEC. Alabama's still top dog, and they're going to be top dog for a while now. Nothing's changing. Alabama's still the biggest, baddest kid on the block, and you're just going to have to deal with that. That's what this game told me.
My favorite thing, I guess, would be the duality of that wide receiver room. One of Alabama's wide receivers had a really wholesome, I looked up the Bible verse, I forget what it is, but he had a Bible verse in his eye black, and it was some really wholesome thing about trust in God and everything's going to be okay. Then Ryan Williams' eye black says kill everybody. Ryan Williams, the 17-year-old, his eye black has kill everybody across his face. Kill everybody.
And he plays like a crash out. I love him.
Other games to hit on, Kentucky beating Ole Miss at home. Ole Miss, I feel like Ole Miss is really good. I do think they're a better team than Kentucky, but Ole Miss losing is what happens when you're a good team and you schedule a bunch of shitty teams for your first 4 games and you beat up on them. Your first real challenge out the gate, you're going to struggle. The offense is going to misfire because all of a sudden it's an SEC game. These teams aren't going to play like they're scared of you. These motherfuckers are out to get you, and they're going to play like that. And Kentucky came out and smacked them in the fucking mouth. I mean, did they get a little bit of luck with that fumble bounce? Probably. But, Kentucky came out and smacked you in the mouth at home. I mean, I don't know. That's all I have to say about that game. I didn't see much. I just saw Kentucky
Yeah,
run the ball down their damn throat. It's the only
yeah,
other games I like to talk about. BYU looks legit.
yeah,
Notre
absolutely.
Dame looked convincing against Louisville.
Louisville.
Louisville looked good, but it was the mistakes. Like, it was the turnovers by Shock or Show, however you say it. Shuck. SMU, Florida State, just embarrassing. SMU's kind of had a bounce back game. Their first game, I'm like, damn, we really added these fuckers to the ACC. Now I'm like, okay, FSU sucks, but I did not see them dropping 42 on FSU. That is mind boggling. I mean, I guess I'll highlight NC State's game against NIU. I mean, it was all right. I mean, everyone had NIU winning anyway. I think we were honestly the underdog in that game, if I remember correctly. We just got out of there with the
Nah,
win.
I don't think you were. I saw the point spread. I think you guys were favored, but still, it was a uh, closer than the experts think type of game. Like I think you were actually like favored by like a couple points, like three, like a field goal or something. So technically, y'all covered the spread.
I mean, it was good. I mean, they do run an old school style pro offense. I mean, it wears teams down, but you just kind of got to play discipline. And I will say that was a good bounce back game for the defense. 3 takeaways, which is good. However, this week, oh wait, I forgot to mention UNLV. Turns out didn't need their quarterback. They absolutely dominated. They looked fine. Clearly didn't need him. But
Mm.
all right, this week, obviously, I will say at least for ACC fans, the marquee game: Coke versus Woke, Miami versus Cal Berkeley.
Let's go. For I think there was another title that they were trying to like call it, but yeah, it's the Coke versus Woke Bowl. So let's go. Let's go with that. Uh, I'm excited for that game. I still do. I'm still high on Miami, and I think Miami's gonna find another way to win. But I'm more excited just to see the game day atmosphere at Berkeley. Berkeley's starting to come up a little bit, and starting to. I see the starting progress of them starting to become a football school, and that's something I'm really excited about. Um, yeah. Overall, just I think it's gonna be a good game. I'm high on Ward. He is like a um, definitely has the potential to be a like Heisman candidate with like the way he's been playing. Like saying I think 1,700 yards passing with 18 touchdowns and only 4 picks. He's a force to be reckoned with at Miami, and I think he's going to have a hell of a game at California. Um, yeah, your thoughts on this game, Gareth?
Yeah, as much as I love Cal, I do think Cal will keep it close for about a half, but I do think Miami will pull away. I don't want to say blowout because I feel like that kind of in between where it's not quite a blowout, but like they played well enough in the first half, you don't want to consider them getting their absolute ass kicked.
Yeah,
I think it's probably going to be like 31-14, possibly 42-20, around there. I think halftime score will be a little close, definitely tied at the end of the first quarter. I mean, no disrespect to Cal, but I mean, this is Miami. Cam Ward's looking more and more lethal by the day. Yeah, I just think Miami's really just kind of, peg another win here. Another ACC game that I'm really interested in is SMU Louisville. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, SMU's looking a lot better than they did at the beginning of the season. But I will say, even though Louisville lost to Notre Dame, I do think after how I saw them play in that game, I think they get the dub over SMU. I think it is at home for Louisville. So similar to the Cal game, I think it'll be a good game. Maybe not a blowout, but I do think Louisville will handle business pretty much. Louisville will handle business.
absolutely.
Um, UNLV Syracuse,
That's
two
a
kind of
that's going to be an interesting game. I'm excited for that.
shoot
Uh,
out.
yes, absolutely. UNLV has been on a win streak, proven that the transfer portal drama, everything about it is just noise, and they're just going to continue on their winning ways. Is facing a very offensively strong Syracuse team. They're 3-1. Their only loss coming to Stanford. It's going to be an interesting Friday night game, in my opinion. Uh, Part of me thinks that Syracuse has the better tools. They have the better quarterback. They have the better receivers. But UNLV just proves that, hey, they will take what they have and they will win with it. They won against Fresno State last week without their starting QB who decided to redshirt the season over NIL deals. The less said about that, I think, the better right now because UNLV is proving that they are a strong football team. What are your thoughts on who comes out with this, Gareth?
Syracuse, I will say at the beginning of the season, how they looked in certain games, I would say initially that I would have thought they have the upper edge. But after how they looked against Stanford, Stanford could just be better than we give them credit for. I honestly think UNLV and anyone who just names their offense the go-go offense, immediate points in my book. I actually have UNLV coming out on top. I do see a way for Syracuse to win. I'm not saying that's absolutely foolproof. I would not be surprised if Syracuse won. I do think this is going to be a shootout, but I do see Syracuse losing this game. My guess is probably going to be like 38-35 on the low end. On the low end, like with how these offenses play. Even with the backup quarterback, like you said, with all the drama, UNLV looks just as dangerous, if not more dangerous. They look like a well-oiled machine. Now, this being, I forget if they've had any really true tests, but I will say this will be in my I think this is their first Power 5 game, which will
No,
be
they played the Power Four team Kansas and they won 23-20.
oh, well in that case, okay. So I think
And
honestly they
also
may
Houston is a Power Four team too. They beat them 27-7.
okay, yeah, so there it is. Yeah, they are a force to be reckoned with. I wasn't exactly familiar with their schedule, but I will say, I do give the edge to UNLV there. I will say, Syracuse has looked shaky at times, particularly on the defensive end, whereas UNLV hasn't necessarily had such apparent issues. So, actually, it's at UNLV. It's not in the Carrier
Yeah.
Dome, so I
Oh
think
yeah.
that gives them the
It's
edge
at Allegiant
there.
Stadium.
So I think that gives them the edge there. Navy Air Force, that's honestly probably my game of the week outside of UNLV Syracuse, just for the
Yeah.
fact it's option versus option.
Yeah.
I think Navy's going to come out on top. They just look too good. No slight to
Absolutely.
Air Force. Air Force looks good, but
They only have
I
one
think they're
win.
3-2. They're
No,
only
they're
one
one
win.
in.
I thought.
Yeah, they're only 1-3.
Oh, they're 1-3. I was unaware of that. I thought they were 3-2. My bad.
Hang on,
Yeah.
I can fact check that. Air Force 1-3.
Oh
They
God,
won
that's
against
worse.
Merrimack. They lost against San Jose State. They lost against Baylor, and they lost against Wyoming.
Yikes. So yeah,
I think
definitely
Navy's
give me Navy.
I think Navy's going to blow them out. But I always like what I'm glad you brought that up because I'm always a military academy shill. So I'll watch any, like I always prioritize watching any of the academies at least like once a week. So like at least one of the teams once a week, and I like the Navy Air Force rivalry. I think Air Force will definitely at least like Air Force will never give up on the football field, but I think Navy's just too much right now.
Yeah, I don't think it'll necessarily be a blowout just because of how these rivalries usually go. And we've seen like 4-8 Navy teams ruin a 10-win Army season. But I think Navy's going to win like 21-10. Navy and Army throwing the football a lot more than they're used to this year. Their quarterback actually has more passing yards than rushing yards this season, which is, a shock. I mean, they still run the option out of the flex bone, whatever you want to call it, double wing formation. They have run a lot more shotgun this year, but if you told me 5 years ago that a Navy quarterback to start the season not only would be 4-0, but would be here. Let me read this off. If you told me a Navy quarterback would be 30 of 44 for 637 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 1 interception, I would have thought you were crazy. Like, I mean, yeah, 30 of 44. They're not throwing the ball that much. That's like they're throwing the ball a little over 10 times a game doing that. But still, 10 times a game is a lot for Army and Navy, I feel like, at least in recent years, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But trying to look at any other games, I mean, SMU, Louisville, we already talked about. South Carolina, Ole Miss. I think the Ole Miss slide's going to continue. South Carolina home game, regardless of whether they're good or not, it's difficult. And if Ole Miss doesn't come out firing on all cylinders, I think this could be another slip-up game. You know, if the offense isn't exactly working in rhythm, they're not operating like the well-oiled machine that they can be, I think this could get not – I don't think it'll be ugly in terms of the scoreline, like a blowout, but I think it could be ugly. Like we could see the cracks in the offense of Ole Miss a little bit more apparent, especially being an SEC game on the road, if I do believe. Let me fact check that before I put that out there. But I do believe it is a road game. Yes, it is a road game. And like I said, South Carolina, always formidable. I guess other games that we can look out for, Tennessee, Arkansas, I really don't see that game. Like, I think Tennessee handles business there. National championship rematch, Michigan, Washington. I don't know how to feel about Michigan this season, Aiden. What about you? I feel like it's kind of been like a roller coaster of a season. I mean, they looked horrible against Texas, and then have looked passable against other teams. I think it's they don't really pass the ball much either, and I know they didn't last season, but 34 yards. Army and Navy passed for more yards than you last week. Like,
yeah. I mean, I think Michigan's going to get away with the win there. Washington, hasn't really shown me anything that makes me, too high on them right now. And I know it says that Washington is favored in this game, but I'm rocking with Michigan. I think they're going to be good enough to get the win in Seattle, but it's a weird phenomenon because Michigan is a top 10 team going up against an unranked team, and they are favored to and only they are only given a 42% shot.
Yeah, I think what that may boil down to, and I do think Michigan can get the win here, but I do think that what that boils down to is while Washington has not been as good, they've still kind of kept that element of an explosive passing game. I mean, Washington this season, their Will Rogers has not thrown an interception. And while they aren't the same team, they've thrown they're averaging 250 passing yards a game. I do see a scenario in which, Washington can come out with a win here. And I do think the scenario in which Michigan loses is where
Michigan's going to slide, I feel like, if they lose to Washington right now.
Yeah, they're going to slide. But I do think in this scenario where Washington does win, it's the Washington passing game. They're going to be going. They're going to be firing on all cylinders. If this stays low scoring, I give the edge to Michigan. Where if Washington gets above, if Michigan's going to win this, I feel like they need to hold Washington to less than 21.
Absolutely.
21's the magic number for Washington. If Washington can beat Michigan to 21, Washington wins this game. That is my lock for the week. If Washington
They've
beats
only
Michigan at 21,
That's a very good line to have, because the only games they have lost are the only games they have failed to make score over 20 points. Washington State, they only scored 19 points, and against Rutgers they only scored 18 points.
yeah, and I feel like this is similar. I feel like I'm gonna make a comparison. I don't know how you're gonna feel about this. I feel like Michigan's offense this year is like the old, not old as in like a long time ago, but like you know how in ACC basketball, if you're playing Virginia, the rule was always if you beat them to 60, you were like it was like ESPN did some crazy stat line where it was like back when Virginia was in its height,
Yep.
at the height of its power. If
Hmm.
you were going to beat Virginia, it was like if you beat Virginia to 60, you had an 85% chance of winning the game.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the case with Michigan. No matter if it's home or away from Michigan, if you beat them to 21, you are going to win. But the thing is, you cannot let them dictate the pace. They still have a really good run game. They have a quarterback who they have now that they're playing Alex Orji now. They've got a quarterback run game that's dynamic. They can run all over you. But if you force the game into a fast-paced open game and you just play solid run defense, if not not saying they're capable of, if they do, I feel like that Michigan or Washington can walk out of there. But I feel like it's going to be, like I said, whoever gets to 21 first.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Looking at any more games, have we touched up on the only top 25 matchup, Missouri, Texas A&M?
I do not believe so.
I mean, Texas A&M, this is a must-win game for them. I don't see how they can. It's a must-win game for either of them, because both teams have not looked that impressive to me. Texas A&M was like has kind of bounced back after losing to Notre Dame, winning against McNeese State, Florida, Bowling Green in a not convincing fashion in Arkansas. And Missouri also having a unconvincing win against Vanderbilt and Boston College, but still having a convincing win against Murray State and the powerhouse that is Buffalo. But in this game, I think it's it's the line is like pretty much dead even right now. I think matchup predictor giving Missouri a 51.5% chance of victory, and the Vegas odds are favoring Texas A&M by -2 points. So it's really anybody's game. It's I believe it's at Kyle Field. It's going to be popping off. It's a noon game, so I think with this game, uh, offense is going to be a big key. You're going to need to see Cook from Missouri really step up and start converting his yards into passing yards into touchdowns. Only having four passing touchdowns is not impressive, especially for somebody that should be performing at the upper echelon of the SEC. But I think this could be a big game where he like pops off. At the end of the day, I think I'm going to give the game to. I think the way Missouri's been playing is going to catch up with them. I'm going to give the game to Texas A&M. I think they're going to win 28-24. It's going to be a close game. I think Texas A&M is in a position where they can't lose this game, and Missouri, they shouldn't. They are going to have more tough games moving forward, but they've just have not been playing with the efficiency I think they should be playing. They haven't played that the efficient way that they need to do against Vanderbilt, and they haven't done it against Boston College. uh, something tells me that they're just not going to have the motivation that they need, and Texas A&M is going to try to turn around their season in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Missouri, Texas A&M has much more to lose here. So I feel like Texas A&M is going to come out swinging, and Missouri's offense, I feel like Missouri's offense has a higher upside than Texas A&M. So Texas A&M is going to need to control the tempo of the game here. They're going to not keep it low scoring, but they don't want to get into an absolute shootout here with Missouri. Now, do I think Missouri's offense is capable of that? I don't know. But I feel like the key to Texas A&M here is they cannot let Missouri's offense get going. They cannot let them start to find traction. They cannot let Brady Cook have a breakout game here. And I feel like they have the capacity to do that, but I still do give the edge to Texas A&M, but they're going to have some sort of offensive production here. I know. Did they end up benching Wegman? I believe they did. They benched
Oh,
Wegman. So
oh, shoot! I
they're
think that
rocking
I
a
think that I think that's. Hang on. Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't
Continue.
know. Marcel Reed is looking good.
Yeah.
585, 6 TD, 73.3 passer rating. Granted, that's against second half against McNeese State. Looks like an entire game against Florida. They're going to have to pass the ball a lot better than they have. 18 for 22 for 163. You're going to need to beat Missouri. You're going to need a little bit more than that. And I know Missouri's not an offensive juggernaut, but you're going to need a lot more than that to beat them. I do think they can, but they're going to have to, like you said, they're fighting for their lives in this game, and they're going to have to play like they're fighting for their lives because Missouri, in my opinion, can, if they want to accomplish their goals this season, they can afford to drop this game. Texas A&M can't. They're at the end of their rope. 2 home losses. No, that's gonna take them out of
Especially
playoff contention completely.
especially with a tough schedule where you are playing Texas in November. Like I don't see uh, uh, Texas A&M having any more chances to really make up for that Notre Dame loss, and this is going to be the game where they are going to have to start making up for their very lackadaisical past couple games. Start of the season, I should say, but very like lackadaisical start of the season.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add on the college end? I know. I'm trying to think of any other games. I was going to see what Army was doing, but I'm pretty sure I don't think either Army's not playing or they're playing they're playing a
I
punching bag.
For my last game that I want to talk about right now, I want to bring a highlight to Marshall versus App State. App State is going up to Marshall, and it's going to be the first game after uh, being canceled, their home game against Liberty being canceled due to Hurricane Helene. Um, I just think this is a good feel good like a good story for App. I'm really excited to see how they respond to adversity, and I think they're going to represent Western Carolina very well in this game. It's going to be a 2-2 matchup between the two, but I feel like App State's going to come out and play with purpose. Their last showing where they played South Alabama was not very promising, but this is going to be a game that means more to App State, and it's why I have them winning this game. And I just hope they're everyone in Western Carolina is able to recover. And I know the rebuilding process is starting now, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the entire everyone who has been affected by the storm, and it's affected a lot of people in our own state. And I think just highlighting App State right now and them representing the people is just going to be a good story for this going into this week.
I agree, and I feel like just kind of normally when you see situations like this, just momentum in the universe feels like they're on the side of the team or like the area that the team's from. Like if it's going through a tough time, like you said, I feel like App State, like they're kind of playing for Western Carolina. I mean, they're the only FBS team in Western North Carolina, unless you count UNC Charlotte. But I really don't consider Charlotte Western North Carolina. I consider it more of like
Piedmont.
Metro South or Piedmont. But I feel like App State here is kind of playing for the entire western side of the state, and I feel like you said, they're going to bring their A game. I think Aguilar is going to have a breakout game. I think Castle, who's had he's had an okay start to the season, but 184 yards in 4 games. That's averaging a little less than 40 yards, a little about 40 yards a game, 1 touchdown. 40 yards on 10 carries a game is not bad, but still, like that's 4 yards a carry. But I think App State's just gonna they're gonna have a breakout game here. Marshall's looked okay this season. I mean, they kind of kept pace with Ohio State there for about a quarter and a half. But I feel like just with how the season's going and everything going on, I do think App State's gonna they're not gonna blow them out, but I feel like it's gonna be a sizable chunk. I feel like App State will win like 35-20. And you know what? I may make my thing for predictions a magic number. App State, your magic number for this game is 35. You get 35, I don't see you losing. Marshall, I don't think has cracked 35 once this season. Sorry, correction. They've cracked 35 once, and that was against Stony Brook. In all their other games, Marshall has not cracked more than 20. If you can crack 30 here, if you can crack 35 here, I give you a 100% chance of winning. Similar to the Michigan game, Marshall, you want to win, you got to keep App State. For 100%, you got to keep App State under 30. And I know you're saying, well, 30 versus 35. 35, in my opinion, is a 100% chance of an App State win. For Marshall, honestly, for Marshall to have a 100% chance of winning this game, they need to keep App State under 20. Because Marshall, in tough games where they're not, honestly, in my opinion, Marshall should have absolutely spanked Western Michigan. But even in games where they're favored to win big, they haven't scored more than 27. Marshall to win, you got to keep App State under 20, but I think App State's going to win 35-20. Anything else you want to hit on?
In the college realm, I'd say no, but there is. I do want to talk about. I'm going to get into MMA and then cap tonight off with some baseball, if that's all right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Baseball is actually something I wanted to float by you at one point talking about, but
yeah,
let's start off with the MMA like you talked about.
All righty. So UFC 307 is happening this weekend at Salt Lake City, Utah. The elevation is definitely going to be a factor for a lot of the fighters, but I want to give my picks for the fights of the night and things that I'm going to be looking at. First, working from the bottom of the card to the top. Undercard, the prelim fight that I am most interested in, and this is going to be for all the listeners. This fight is going to be available on ESPN News, and it's going to be free, and you are going to be able to watch this for free. You don't have to worry about paying for the pay-per-view. And this is a very interesting fight. It's going to be Stephen Thompson, Wonder Boy Thompson versus Hoquan Buckley for a welterweight fight. Stephen Thompson, Wonder Boy, is probably one of my personal favorite fighters. He was able in his prime to really bring together the usage of karate in MMA, which is something that has never been done before. And he is a very dangerous striker, and he's able to throw around different kicks, like question mark kicks, kicks that traditional kickboxers aren't able to do, that he is able to pull off with such fluidity and the grace that it's beautiful to see watch him fight. He is probably one of my favorite fighters just on seeing like him fight, and also he has a like wonderful personality, one of the nicest people in the UFC, always uh, doing great charity work, and he's going up against Hoquin Buckley. He is he's on a been on a little bit of a win streak lately, and has really been going up in the welterweight. He has been able to win two of his last four games by knockout, and then his other two have been unanimous decisions, and has absolutely dominating wins. This is going to be it's a steal of a fight to watch for free. Stephen Thompson is going to be the underdog in this fight, but I still think he has what it takes to win. So I'm picking Wonder Boy Thompson to win. And going into the pay per view, we have one of my personal favorites fighters, Kevin Holland, fighting Roman Delodez. Delades. He's from Georgia, the country. I'm not really good at pronouncing his name, but this is a middleweight fight. Kevin Holland is a great striker. He has been he's been trying to improve his grappling and his jujitsu skills. I'm a big fan of him, and I think he has what it takes to win this fight. And any fight, any card with Kevin Holland is a card that I'm always going to pay attention to, and that's just uh, goes into the next fight, which I am not necessarily too excited for because we have Jose Aldo, UFC legend, fighting in 2024. This is it's for those of you who don't know, Jose Aldo is about like almost 40 years old, and he's still fighting. Dana White must have like some type of tape on him or something like that, or some type of leverage against him, because they're just throwing out this 5'7", 38-year-old man to Mario Batista. Uh, and I don't see a world where this isn't just an absolute massacre. I mean, Stephen Thompson can use his like uh, legacy status, and it might work on me. But Jose Aldo, he's too old in my opinion, and I'm surprised he is not retired. His last fight was in August 20th, 2022, and that was a loss. So this guy, the last time Jose Aldo has won was December 4th, 2021. COVID was still around, and it was a relatively large talking point the last time Jose Aldo has won a fight. I have no idea why he's fighting on this card, and it's a little bit sad to see a goat of the sport, or a really like fighter that I respect being thrown to the younger guard, but that's just how it is. And then that brings me to the last two fights of the night. The women's bantamweight title fight. This is going to be a very interesting fight that I'm excited for. We got Raquel Rocky Pennington as the champ, going against the challenger Juliana Pena. I was a very big fan of Pena back in 2021, 2022. She was able to take down the goat of women's bantamweight, Amanda Nunez. And now Juliana Pena's challenging Raquel Pennington. Raquel Pennington, she is a tough son of a bitch, like daughter of a bitch, I guess, but she's uh, super, like she's a hard hitter, has just unmatched strength, like where I think in one fight she literally broke her hand mid-fight and proceeded to beat whoever she was challenging with her broken fist midway through the fight. Just she is just an absolute fucking savage. And Juliana Pena, I'm a big fan of her. I'm a big fan of these two fighters, and I'm excited to see what will happen. I think Juliana Pena has what it takes to take the title back, and I think this will be a big fight for Juliana Pena to really try to like assert her legacy in the women's bantamweight, because some people think that Amanda Nunez fight was a fluke, but I think this is going to be a big fight in like determining whether she is going to be considered one of the greats in the division. But this brings me to the final fight of the night. This is the main event, what we've all been waiting for, and we have Alex Pereira going against Khalil Roundtree Jr. This fight so going into this fight, Alex Pereira has probably had one of the best years of in MMA history. He is headlined UFC 300. He has headlined UFC 303, and he is headlining 307, and all this while he has been just absolutely dominating the light heavyweight division. Khalil Lounge has been treated as the next sacrificial goat to Alex Pereira, because he is pretty much almost cleared through the entire division. I really like Khalil Roundtree. He is a Muay Thai technician that fights in Southpaw. He is a super nice dude, and has been very open about mental health, and really hit the struggles that he's had. But Alex Pereira is just an absolute force of nature. If you have the time or the money to watch him fight, I would definitely tune in for this card, because he is just an absolute savage at light heavyweight. And he has been able to just absolutely make the division his. And there's been talks about him eventually going up to heavyweight, which would make him the first triple champion in UFC history, because he is he has been the former middleweight champion, and now is the current light heavyweight champion, and it would be looking for his heavyweight belt. But with that, I think Alex Pereira is going to win, and I think it's probably going to be a knockout in my opinion, just by how efficient he's been. But yeah, that concludes my summary for the important fights to watch in UFC 307. And overall, I think it's going to be a pretty solid card. Definitely not one for the ages, but this card will definitely have some implications on how Alex Pereira's year is looked at, because if he loses this fight, his legendary 2024 run will basically all just go up in smoke. But if he's able to win this, he's probably had one of the strongest year-long runs that a fighter has ever had. So yeah, that's my take on UFC 307. tune in at 10 o'clock Eastern time on pay-per-view to watch that. And on if you want to watch the prelims on ESPN News, they start at 8 o'clock. And that leads us into our final subject of tonight, which is in baseball, we've had the wild card just end, and we have the main playoffs set. The Detroit Tigers were able to upset the Astros and go on a sweep. That means the Tigers are going to be playing the Guardians now. The Kansas City Royals were able to take the series against the Baltimore Orioles 2-0, and that makes the Royals play the Yankees. And the Mets and Brewers had a back and forth fight for their National League spot in the playoff, and the Mets came away with it 2-1, and that leads them to play the Phillies. And now the Padres swept the Atlanta Braves, and now the Padres are playing the Dodgers. With this, I think the Tigers have what it takes to knock the Guardians off and move on to the next round. The Tigers had an amazing August and late July. They've been first, they've had amazing August and September. They were dead in the water for the majority of the season, but they've been able to string together a bunch of wins and have just been have been like the Cinderella story of this year. I think the Yankees are going to take the Royals, and that's going to lead a American League championship with the Tigers versus the Yankees. And honestly, like I say, this let's go for the memes. I think the Tigers are going to beat the Yankees. I'm a big Aaron Judge guy for the Yankees, but I just don't think the Yankees have what it takes to just fight the just the magic that's behind the Tigers right now. And with the National League, I have the Dodgers beating the Padres. I think they're just fundamentally the better team and have better hitting. And I think Shohei Ohtani is going to really show up on this in this playoff in this whole playoff year and really take it. That leaves the Mets and the Phillies. I think the Phillies have what it takes to take down the Mets. And overall, I just think they have the better team with like Bryce Harper. That would lead a National League championship with the Phillies and the Dodgers, and I just see the Dodgers taking that, which would make my World Series the Detroit Tigers versus the LA Dodgers. And I think the Dodgers would take that. But then, again, what do I know? I'm not a baseball expert, but I think that's my outlook going into MLB for October baseball.
Yeah, I do think the Detroit Tigers, they'd be like the storybook ending because it's been exactly 40 years since their last World Series win back in 1984. I'm not big into MLB. Like I follow it occasionally. Like my girlfriend's a Red Sox fan. I've been trying to get into the MLB. I think it would be easier if, North Carolina had one.
Yeah. But we got to settle for the Braves.
We have to settle for the Braves. But I do think in terms of who I'd want to win, I guess Detroit, just for like the storybook aspect of it. In terms of who I think is going to win out of the AL, out of the American League, I will go a different direction. Who I think is going to win, I do think the Guardians may pull it out. Guardians have been convincing all season. Granted, it's the playoffs. The Detroit Tigers are the hot team. They could consider that could continue that hot streak. But honestly, I think the Guardians take care of business there. And I will agree with you. Out of the National League, I do think it's the Dodgers. I do think the Guardians would take the World Series. But, like I said, what do I know? I've watched a few Red Sox games. I do follow box scores and just kind of occasionally watch highlights, especially if something happens. But like I said, Aiden and I are not any experts on this, but we do follow this somewhat. With that being said, do you have anything else to add? I mean, I guess I'll say my pick then. It's Guardians, but anything else you want to add to that?
I think that's going to be it for me.
Yep, that'll be it for me. Thank you for listening in to this episode. CW Blues, hashtag you're relegated to the fucking Arrowverse. We'll come at you following the NC State game. I'll probably have my mid-season parent-teacher conference / progress report where I'll just kind of highlight the season, where I think it's going, improvements. I'll even do a comparison with Tom O'Brien. I've got a hot take about that previous NC State coach prior to Dave Doran. But that being said, thank you for listening in, and we will see you next week. Have a good one.